Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles, McLennan. We got a big hour. Confirm or deny later in the hour. We got Chris Johnston coming up here in a moment. And no hockey games tonight. We got an NBA game tonight. We got a Blue Jay game tonight. And, we're down 2 majors in golf as well. Shout out to Xander Schauffele. Always was a believer. Shout out to Scottie Scheffler, gets arrested on Friday and then shoots like 66.
That was insane.
Insanity.
Insane.
Was there any live footage of him, what actually happened, or it was just
not that I'm aware of? The reports have indicated that, they haven't found footage or the body cam. I don't think they want it out.
No.
I think that's pretty clear. The mayor was involved, the city was involved.
The governor was involved.
Yes.
Everybody got involved to the point where I think it's, you had, listen, I love the police. I'm pro-police, but maybe this cop was a little bit overzealous because now they're challenging. It's 2 different stories. The cop says that he was dragged by the car.
Right. And
then Scottie Scheffler's like, no, that's not what happened whatsoever. So I don't know what the real story is. Mm-hmm. But something's fishy there.
It was a wild story to follow. Just when the tweet first went out, and when I saw it internally on email, I thought someone got duped. I figured it was someone like a dummy account, and then when it actually was happening, I couldn't believe it. And then on Saturday, he shoots 3 over, takes himself out of the tournament, but still finishes top 10. Comes in strong on Sunday. Scheffler got arrested and still finished top 10 at a major. It's just it's
and
wild.
his caddy was gone for a round because his caddy left for a graduation. He gets arrested. Scottie Scheffler is the nicest guy in the world. It was one of the most bizarre. My buddy sent me the text and he's like, "Are you seeing?" It was early in the morning.
Yeah, it was.
Are you seeing what's going on? I'm like, what could it possibly be? I thought it was Tiger withdrew or Tiger did something. I don't know. Scottie Scheffler arrested at the PGA Championship.
Yeah.
Insanity.
And then gets out, makes his tee time, and shoots 500 par or something.
Yeah, 66. Yeah, he shot a 66.
I just don't understand how it got to that. It's how come it wasn't, here's my badge, I'm a player, I've got to get on the range. That's where I wonder how things went south.
Well, it's chaos at these tournaments, right? We know from our experience at the Canadian Open, when we're at the RBC Canadian Open, there's one entrance, and obviously there was a fatality. My understanding is that a lot of the police that were there, either volunteering or working the tournament, were big golf fans, naturally would have known Scottie Scheffler. But when the accident happened, and then there was ultimately, a loss of life, they had to call in reinforcements.
Right.
And, the cop that ended up going back and forth with Scheffler was someone that I guess had got called in, didn't know who he was. Not that he's obligated to either. I mean, let's clarify that. He doesn't, the police officer doesn't have to know who Scottie Scheffler is. No. But it does seem like it got out of control pretty quickly. And when the mayor, the governor, one of the owners of the club is picking them up. If the heavy hitters in the state, the way the states works.
Well, they're embarrassed.
Yeah,
they're embarrassed.
this guy, he's going to end up getting off the hook here. There's no doubt about that. But It was a wild, wild scene.
All
man.
I could think of when you hear of people showing up. Do you remember that show, The Dukes of Hazzard?
Yeah.
It was Roscoe P. Coltrane that picked him up. The cop and the Dukes and all that. To me, I thought it was so weird. And then it just is fishy. But I like the fact that he was I stretched in the cell.
Yeah.
I went through my routine.
What else are you going to do? What else are you going to do? I mean, he still made it back and played. In the end, his life really didn't get turned upside down. I thought Scheffler had great perspective. He's there was a loss of life. It was chaotic. I respect, the police and all that. And, hey, it
doesn't
was wild.
take away from the fact that it was a crazy
It was
scene.
crazy. It was crazy. But he didn't have to withdraw.
Right.
He didn't. He's not going to jail. And so in the end,
he was probably close to having a withdrawal. I mean,
yeah, he was.
If he's probably I don't know what the timeline was, but if he misses his tee time, he's donezo. So how he got somebody on the horn or got the right people involved to get back to that golf course is beyond me.
But some of the charges were serious charges too. One of them, I think, was like a second class demeanor, like a federal charge. Like it I think it's all going to get dropped, and it's a misunderstanding. But it was pretty greasy there for a bit. Yeah, and in the end, I think that's what we're going to remember. Like Schauffele wins. Birdie's on 18, that's amazing. And Schauffele getting his first win, that will be remembered. But it's going to be Scheffler getting arrested. Like in 10 years, that will be what people are going to remember from that tournament. Confirmed or denied later in the hour, Craig Berube officially announced as the head coach of the Maple Leafs earlier today, and we're down to 4 teams left in the Stanley Cup playoffs. To chat about it, we're joined now on the Maple Toyota hotline by our TSN hockey insider. Here's Chris Johnston. How you doing, CJ?
I'm well, boys. How are you?
We're doing very well.
Good.
We had Craig Berube join us in the last hour, and, he's saying all the right things, yet he's also, admitting he's been on the job for 2 days. And I think from a Brad Treliving standpoint, this was the first job he had to take care of. He's completed that. He brings in Berube. What would you expect is job number 2 for the offseason in terms of where Brad Treliving goes from here?
Well, it's probably job 2 through 33 is shaping out this roster. I mean, when I hear, I didn't hear Craig's hit with you guys, but certainly listen back to the press conference he had today. And, when he's talking about the kind of team he wants, it doesn't feel like the Leafs is currently constructed. And it's still early in the offseason. It's still May. We're not, there was a trade today in the league, but there's not a lot of movement generally this time of year. But, it feels like the Leafs have to get to work on, filling out the roster and building the kind of team that I think can play the style that Craig Berube prefers. And what he said at his press conference, he's on the same page as with Brendan Shanahan and Brad Treliving. So I don't know if it's one player or one decision as much as it's figuring out how the puzzle pieces fit together. And, I don't get the sense any of that's really started in a meaningful way since the end of the regular season, because obviously getting a coach in was a first priority. And now we look ahead, I guess, to the next 6 weeks where, there will be a lot of changes league-wide, and that would include the Maple Leafs roster as well.
You mentioned roster construction, CJ. What do you believe will be the first order of business in that process?
Well, I suppose you have to figure out what you're doing with the big guys, right? I mean, we talk about this every week, I think, right now. But, I mean, at some point you have to figure out, are you going to look to move one or more of them? Is that even possible? Is it workable? I mean, because a lot of decisions flow from whether that becomes a yes or a no, sort of like the old Choose Your Adventure novel or something. I mean, if the answer is yes, I mean, there's a lot of different things at play. If it's no, then I think that you're operating from a different set of principles. But I think that would be probably next. I don't want a time frame how quickly that has to happen. I mean, obviously, well before the draft, I think the Leafs management has to have an idea and a plan of how they're going to navigate those situations potentially. But those are probably the biggest decisions. And then, figuring out, are any of the pending UFAs going to stick around? And from there, if the answer is no, then how are you going to start to fill some of the holes left behind?
CJ, when are you going to start to get the, I guess we'll call it the filter of information as to, when Tree starts to work his way around the league and see what marketplaces look like and all of that? I would imagine, with the playoffs still going on, but GMs still have to work for not only this year, but for, constructing a team next season. So, do you assume that it'll happen sooner than later as far as, maybe some of the things that Tree is looking at doing with his roster?
Yeah, I think it depends on, how discreet those conversations are had initially, but whether it'll fall to our table. But I'd say historically, once you get into June, and this year the Cup final won't start until into the first week of June, that as much as there's still big games being played and the biggest trophy still at stake, I think that decisions start to become a little clearer around the league. I mean, at that point, you're down to 30 teams that aren't playing. You have teams getting ready for, are they going to issue qualifying offers to certain restricted free agents? I think you're getting closer to that draft window where we do see trades usually. So, I think that you probably got another week here where it probably won't be too loud, I'd say. But, by early June, not just in Toronto, but elsewhere, I think we're going to have the direction, become a little bit more apparent, and we'll see which way the Leafs are pointing at that point in time.
Yeah, and there was a trade today. Ryan McDonagh gets traded from Nashville back to Tampa. And my reaction to that is, why can't and why aren't other teams making deals? There's 4 teams left. That's 28 teams can make trades. Like, why do we have to wait until the draft in July 1? I love this. Like, Barry Trotz and Breezeball are like, screw it. We got a deal. Let's go. We're making a deal.
Yeah, you should love it. I mean, I think it's great. Part of what's unique here is that, McDonagh had a full no move clause and had the ability to control what happened and requested the trade itself. And so I think, when he went to his GM, Barry Trotz, then, had a clear path to what the decisions had to be, and these guys acted quick. I think it makes a ton of sense if you're Tampa. I mean, that team has probably even bigger decisions in some ways than the Leafs pending. I mean, with, how do they fit in Stamkos or not? I mean, either way that falls, that's a massive decision. And then, by making this trade, I can see how it addresses the need in their top 4 that they've had, quite frankly, since they traded McDonagh away, following that Cup final loss to Colorado a few years back. But, there's sort of a trickle-down effect where they're going to more than likely have to make at least one other move to free up cap space. And I think that is the case whether they're re-signing Stamkos or not. So, why wait? And so I think the easiest answer is usually if you're trading a player, you want more people involved in that conversation. You're trying to drive up the value, whereas, I think in this circumstance, it was pretty apparent that Ryan McDonagh wanted moved and moved back to Tampa if possible. The Lightning were amenable to that, and they found a way to get the deal done.
Yeah, I'm curious, like, if you're Barry Trotz, I appreciate how proactive that is, but they just acquired McDonagh. They made the playoffs. They had a great stretch run. He was a big part of it. Like, what does it say about your program that McDonagh, wants out? I'm always curious about that. Like, what would – I always felt like Nashville was a place that a lot of players want to be. What do you make of that from, the Preds and Barry Trotz standpoint?
Well, I look at it, if you look at the 2-year window, I think they got a first to take the contract initially. They got 2 pretty good years out of him, and then, get a second round pick back to trade him to Tampa. So, I mean, from a high level, that's a pretty good set of business. I also think that, I don't know that it's a commentary necessarily on the Predators of today or Nashville as a market. I think it's a player that, never wanted to leave the Lightning to begin with. I mean, this is one of the interesting things about the Lightning is of course they've, they won the Cups and they've had this long run of success as an organization, but Julian Breezeball is not afraid of a difficult decision. And in this case, in a sense, he's going back on the decision. He already parted with an asset to get rid of this guy. Now he's, a second round pick isn't too much in this case, second and a 7th, they get a 4th back, but, they're getting, they're trading for him back, because they recognize they need him. So, I don't think it says anything that bad about the Predators. The Preds have some sort of bad money on their cap sheet with the Matt Duchene buyout and some other things. I think Barry Trotz is going to be involved in other trade discussions, and for him, he's adding draft picks. So, this is one of those ones where I think it's the Preds doing right by a player who had his own reasons to want to go back to Tampa, and it kind of works for everyone here. And, I don't see it as a negative commentary on Nashville. I think the Predators were one of the surprise teams in the West, and I think they're going to be very aggressive this offseason.
Yeah, and I mean, their reputation has always been good goaltending, good defense, but lacking star power. And naturally, up here in Toronto, everyone's playing amateur GM with Mitch Marner in particular and linking them to a team like Nashville. Does that make sense? Could you see them kicking tires if Mitch is open to it? Could you see there possibly being a fit there among, I don't know, how many other teams in the league could possibly make that work?
Yeah, my sense is I don't think that there have been those discussions yet, but certainly from a high level, I can see why people are connecting the dots. I mean, Nashville could use, I think, a little bit more of a scoring presence in their lineup. It doesn't have to come from one player. It doesn't have to come from a winger currently playing in Toronto. But, I think that someone like Marner would fit an element for them. And they also have a decision to make in goal. So, I understand why everyone is sitting back looking around the league and, thinking, where could this work? Where might it make sense? Has come to that conclusion. It seems just a little premature from where the discussions have been at this point. I don't get the sense that there's been anything meaningful or tangible going on between the Predators and Leafs on that at this point in time. But, certainly would say that they make as much sense as probably 4 or 5 other teams. Again, if we're just going to sit around and maybe drink a cold one and think about what makes sense. Those of us that aren't making the decision on this, I think that Nashville, has a lot of appeal for players generally. And I think that they're going to be, they were even last year, they hosted the draft. They were, dangling around Askarov, who they didn't end up moving, but, probably are happy about that because he's had a pretty good year. And now really looks like the goalie of the future. They were thinking about moving Saros back then. I think it's funny, Barry Trotz hasn't had in a long time in the GM seat, but I think he really understands and wants to shake up his team. And if a player is as good as, whether it's Mitch Marner or someone as good as him moves, I think that Nashville is going to want to be in on it. I think that my sense right now is that those conversations aren't yet happening between the people that would have to be involved to make that kind of deal.
CJ, the Oilers get it done last night, and before the season, McDavid said cup or bust. There's always the questions in Toronto. Why didn't you guys get it done? How come you can't make a run, go deep? Are the questions at Edmonton just going to be there if they don't win the cup with that comment from McDavid? What are we going to do now? Because there's big questions there too.
Yeah, arguably bigger questions. Leon Draisaitl's 1 year out from UFA, and even McDavid's only 2 years. Whereas Toronto at least has Matthews signed here for 4 seasons, and Nylander for 8. And so that's simplifying the picture, but essentially the absolute chorus of the core in Edmonton are not signed in there long term, and I think that they have to navigate that on their own end there, and at least in Toronto where we're talking about potentially some big shifts. There's still the 69 goal scorer from last year and 100-point man or 99-point man, whatever it ended up being, and Nylander are locked in, basically right through their absolute prime. So, I think there's probably some bigger questions in Edmonton. Probably a little too soon today to answer what's going to happen, how that all plays out. But, this next few weeks, frankly, it's not just the summer, are huge. They're going to have to make a decision if Draisaitl doesn't want to engage and his agent, on signing an extension as of July 1st when they can. We've seen an instance as recently as Nylander last year in Toronto, Pasternak the year before in Boston. Just because that contract isn't signed, the extension prior to entering that final season doesn't mean the guy's gone. But it starts to become a bit of a blinking contest between two sides. And so, I think in Edmonton, this was a precious miss. This could be a precious missed opportunity if they don't find a way to get it done. So yes, I think it's cup or bust. I think that's the right attitude. And frankly, that's the attitude, I think, starting day one of camp for the Leafs next year, too. Well,
I think, if you look at Draisaitl, we haven't even talked about it. Would he be your Conn Smythe winner today?
Would be for me.
I would think so. I would think so. It's hard. It's hard to say anyone's ahead of him.
Ottinger, maybe.
Ottinger, Shesterkin, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Barkov's been pretty good. I think it's Draisaitl, though. Yeah, I agree.
But you think about it, Draisaitl's next contract has got to be 13 plus.
No, it's more than Matthews.
The guy is literally all the guy does is perform in the playoffs. Legitimately, hurt
anytime,
not hurt.
Noodles. He just performs. Period.
The guy comes to play every night. Edmonton. If he wants to stay, Edmonton's doing whatever they can to keep him.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line. Is both those players in the playoffs, they proved that they want to play. And McDavid, if you look at it, he got shut out 3 times in this last series, but he came to play. He was playing hard. I don't know if he's hurt or not, but he's in there. He's taking hits, receiving hits.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing everything he can. But Edmonton is cup or bust. But I think they're poised to at least, if those guys want to stay and stay for term, Edmonton will do whatever they can. It'd be ridiculous not to. That Draisaitl literally comes to play every night, at the most critical times.
Exactly, and it's funny because he's, It's the way I would have viewed this Matthews conversation last summer. I would say if he wants to sign here, you sign him to whatever you can sign him to. I think it's the same idea, except what you're talking about, Noodles, is bang on. That he's had a lot of playoff success, and here they are in the third round again. And look, they might win the trophy this year. I mean, get down to the Final Four, man. It gets awfully enticing. You're pretty close, but still only halfway there.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly it. And I mean, look at who you're facing now. You got Dallas, and then if you get through them, you got one in Florida or New York. So it's only going to get more difficult, and you just got to improve your play, and that applies to every single team. As for Vancouver, they've set a new bar. Rick Tocchet, I think, spoke on it eloquently last night, getting the respect of the city and the fan base back, and everyone's jacked, and you know what's coming. There'll be some activity over the summer, and they'll show up at camp next year, and people are going to say cup or bust in Vancouver. Do you think that's accurate? Is it appropriate? Where do you stand on Vancouver and the likelihood that they remain at the level that they found themselves in this year?
Well, I think not taking one little iota away from anything they did this year, right through the regular season. There was questions about them to get to Game 7 against Edmonton. I mean, look, they had a chance to eliminate them in Game 6. There's not it's not hard to squint and imagine them still playing in the Western Conference Final. But that being said, they have more unanswered questions for this year than certainly that Edmonton does, just with whether it's Zadorov, Lindholm, maybe not their absolute frontline players, but, they stand to lose a lot of guys. And even if they want to keep them all, I just don't think the cap is going to allow them to even remotely be in those conversations. And so, it's hard to sit here now and know exactly what the roster is going to look like come September. But, I could see them taking a step back in terms of talent level, because, they made some trades that were designed to be, to push their chips in a bit for this season. I don't necessarily think they were ill-advised trades. They're the kind of trades lots of teams make trying to get over the top. But, there's a price to be, there's sort of, the rent comes due at a certain point, and I just think that it's going to be hard for them or challenging for them to do it. That being said, they got tons of great players. A healthy Thatcher Demko, makes their season look different next year. You're still going to have Besser and Hughes and Pettersson and JT Miller. And, I think that there's still going to be a team that's in the mix, but unfortunately you come through this run, the emotions of it, love the way the fans cheered them off the ice, but there's no promise that next year is going to be better. And, a lot of work ahead of their management there too.
Yeah, work never stops. That's for sure. All right, CJ, good stuff, buddy. Thank you for doing this. We'll do it again soon.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Chris Johnston joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Yep, down to 4 teams. We had a trade today. Again, Ryan McDonough. And call me a cynic, but something tells me McDonough knew Tampa would be willing to take him back, before that request came in. Yeah. Something tells me, I think Tampa's willing to... Hey, Barry, do you mind trading me to Tampa in particular? That would be great.
It's funny how that's the team that emerged.
Yeah, somehow Tampa became available. And, Brisebois, their GM, said he still thinks there's money there for Steven Stamkos. The question is Stamkos looking at it saying, okay, there is, but
how much?
I want more than that. So is there money for me? We'll see. We'll see where that goes with Stamkos and company. But, yeah, the Draisaitl situation, the guy's an absolute beast, man. And, when his deal is up, if it's in Edmonton, like we said, like everyone concedes, he'll get whatever. And if he goes somewhere else, he'll get whatever. That's it. Just the bar goes up. Matthews signed for $13.25, I believe it was. So Draisaitl's going to get more. And then McDavid will come over the top of that. And then in like 5 or 6 years, Makar will go. It's just going to keep going and going and going. Yeah. And Bedard in 6 years will sign for $16 million.
Well, the cap's going up. Like that's the one thing you've been hoping, and we've been talking about it for years, is the cap is going to get to $100 million. The cap is like, and then guys will be getting paid lots of money, but you won't be scrimping and saving where you're pressed up against it at an $83 million cap. You'll have more money to spend.
And as far as Stammer goes, Hayes, he has to figure out with the organization and Brisebois, does he want to get paid for the 40-goal season he just had and the incredible consistency he's had throughout his career, or does he want to get paid to stay at Tampa Bay Lightning for the rest of his career? Because there's going to be a big difference in that separation of those numbers.
For sure.
It might be.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle decision. It's a legacy decision as much as it's a financial one. Like all of that has to be considered. Confirm or deny coming up. Mike Johnston will join us. Our best bets brought to you by FanDuel. Still to come as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.
I can neither confirm or deny that this is in fact a segment.
Austin trades Andrew Raycroft to Toronto in exchange for the rights to Tuukka Rask.
It's been my honor and a privilege to serve as the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs Hockey Club.
It's time for Confirm or Deny.
Do you regret giving all those gentlemen the no trades or no movement clauses?
I can neither confirm or deny that.
I can't confirm or deny.
All right, Confirm or Deny brought to you by Summit Ford and South Lake Ford Lincoln, where there is no such thing as a no trade clause. Any make, any model, anytime. Visit summitford.com or southlakeford.com. All right, here we go. Confirm or deny. Statements are made. We go around the table. We confirm them or we deny them. Confirm or deny. The Vancouver Canucks will compete for the President's Trophy again next season.
I have to deny, not because I don't believe in their ability and what they have as a team. I just think it's difficult to replicate all the positivity that's happened this year. Just because you have some talented players and you had a great season, it just doesn't mean you march right back there and do it again. There's decisions to be made on certain players, and who knows if they can do it again. So it's not like I don't believe in them, Hayes. I just don't know if it just means you can automatically. What are you laughing at? What's
So we owe Mike,
Nothing,
your friend
man.
Mike, an apology. That's what it
A
is.
sincere one. And it's coming right now. Apologies. Yeah, continue. Sorry, it's very unprofessional. You're making all the good
the
points.
guy's name is my buddy. I golf with him, and you guys acted like 10-year-olds. I golf with him. He's a +4 handicap.
It just
He's an
caught
awesome
us
guy.
off guard.
It's
That's what
live
happened. It caught us
TV
off
and
guard.
radio and very immature, I admit to that. +4, that's unnecessary information, but shout out.
Yeah. Mike
He's a
Crapper
stick.
is a +4.
He's a stick. All right, man.
It's awesome.
I'm denying it as well. Everything you just said, I totally concur. I mean, the idea, for starters, it's like the Cup. Only one team can win the President's Trophy.
Yes.
Multiple can compete for it. But I think Vancouver yo-yos back a bit. I think they're a playoff team. I think they've got a lot of talent. Rick Tocchet's done a great job. Demko, if he stays healthy, they're going to be a playoff team and a good team. But it's tough, man. Over 82 games, that's a grind to stay in the mix atop the league back-to-back years. Don't see it.
I'm going to agree with it because you said not winning it, just compete.
Which is code for like a legitimate shot with
Top 5,
15 games to go. Yes,
Top 5.
Sure.
They had 109 points. So what did the Rangers end up winning it with? 115 was it?
Yeah, something like that. They just got past Dallas. I think it was in the end.
Yeah, I mean, both. I'm going to say the word compete threw me off because it means they're in the mix. I'm going to agree with it because I think that the way that team is built and the way that how hard they play, like they will be a very good team. And you know what? I think this Pettersson kid has something to prove too. Even though he had a great regular season, like he's going to have to come back and. There is, once the dust settles, there'll be some whispers about a guy who was pretty quiet there, from statistically.
He'll be fine in the regular season, though, right? Like, I fully expect he's dominant in the regular season. Question is, how's he feeling when they get to the playoffs next year? Like, that's when he's going to redeem himself.
Yeah.
Confirm or deny. FanDuel has it right. I should point this out. FanDuel has the Panthers winning the series -146. FanDuel has it right. The Panthers should be a big favorite over the Rangers.
I'm denying.
I'm totally confirming this. I picked the Panthers mid-December. I just think they play for keeps, and they're on a mission. And the one thing that they have in the horizon is the team that they couldn't get by last year is no longer around. So they got to be thinking it's their time. It's like, you know what? Those guys that beat us in the finals and they beat us up pretty good, they're not around anymore. So maybe it's their time to just – what an incredible run, too, to go to the finals and then just say we're pissed off we didn't get it, we're going back. We just talked about the struggles of Vancouver not replicating success. These guys are saying, screw that, we're going back and winning it. I totally confirm this.
So I'm denying it because I do believe the Panthers are, should be favored, but not by much. Like, I think this is a pick 'em. The Rangers won the President's Trophy this year, and I think coming into the playoffs, I chose them to win the Cup. I thought it was going to be Colorado Rangers in the finals, and Colorado ends up losing. So, but the Rangers were a hell of a team. I got to watch them live a couple times down the stretch. The goalie's woken up. He's a hell of a goalie. There's not much weakness there whatsoever. You got Norris Trophy winning defenseman there. Great balance up front.
Home ice, Laviolette.
Yeah, I mean, they're just. I think it's a pick 'em. So I
agree.
that's why I'm denying it.
I deny it too. I think it's closer to a pick 'em. I'm having a tough time picking this series. Like the Rangers, home ice, Shesterkin. Yes, a ton of balance. They've got playoff performers. They've got guys that step up. Not that Florida doesn't. Florida can match it.
Yeah.
But, Laviolette.
I think Florida's going to hurt them. I got to be honest.
Like run them over physically?
I do. I just think physicality is going to be a major factor. Whether it plays out that way, I don't know. But it's a potential major factor in this series. If the Florida Panthers can run the New York Rangers out of the building, because they played the Caps, not even close. And then they played the Hurricanes, not even close. They're getting an animal right now that they haven't seen anything close to it.
That's valid.
I just wonder if it's going to be a factor. Because those guys down in South Florida play for keeps, man.
They do. I just don't know if Chris Kreider is going to get pushed around. Like, he's a big dude.
The question is Panarin,
Trouba.
Isn't it? It's Panarin.
Yeah, you're right.
It's Panarin, it's Lafreniere, it's Zibanejad, it's
that's
Fox.
fair.
Trocheck will show up. Trocheck's had a great run.
Trocheck's got some stones.
Yeah.
But it's it's not a matter of those guys we just mentioned showing up. It's what is it going to do to them over a 7-game series if it goes that far, right?
Yeah.
Because those skill guys, everyone talks about it in the National Hockey League. Lean on them, see what happens. Can you eventually push a Lafreniere out of a series with physicality? We're going to find out. Going to find out.
Well, and they got that Hedel back. That kid's a pretty good player. Like there's not a weakness on that Rangers team. I think both of those teams, legitimately you could make an argument could win a cup. Like they're that good. And then the goalies, both goalies are X factors, Bob and Shesterkin. Like I just, you look at the 4 goalies that are left, 3 of them are like Vezina caliber. And Stuart Skinner had a great season and had a dip in the playoffs, but he won his last couple, so we'll see what happens. But I think Florida's really good, but I think the Rangers are right there.
I agree.
Right there.
Yep, I think they are. Confirm or deny, Xander Schauffele will win at least one more major in the next 3 years. So 10 cracks at it, the next 10 majors. One more for Xander.
I think he's got to, man. I don't know if you're a golf writer covering the sport. When you watch him win, are you elated for him? Or are you like, how did this guy not do this sooner?
Yeah.
You watch a video of that guy's golf swing, and I just saw one over the weekend of him in a practice round. And it's a simple video of a 4-iron swing. I saved it to my notes to watch it before I hit balls because the tempo, and that guy's golf, he's not a big dude. And he moves it out there. It's like, how has that package not put it all together and won? It's like, it's insane. I 100% think this will springboard him into more victories.
It was always about clutch, right? It was always, you didn't worry about him the first 65
U.S.
holes.
Open last summer, he got in a fairway bunker on the first hole and he took 3 to get it out, and it's like, see you later.
See you later,
like, there was always something.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
you win, it may springboard you into more confidence, and so I'll agree.
Okay.
I'll confirm it.
You're going to confirm it. It's a tough field, man. You're up against, Scheffler's not going anywhere. McIlroy's been waiting 10 years. Koepka was in the mix again. He'll be there. But this, Xander is in his prime. He's in contention all the time. The question was always, can he get over the top? Like he led the whole tournament pillar to post. It's incredibly impressive. And he had to birdie the 72nd hole. He knew what he had to do, and he did it. I'll confirm it. I think he's that good. I think he's not Scheffler. He's not Koepka, but he's like just below that, and he's in contention, and he's in his prime. And these courses, they can't make them long enough for him to be uncomfortable. Like, it doesn't matter. Valhalla, That was a pitch and putt for these guys, man.
It was disgusting.
They destroyed that golf course.
Well,
and it was 7,700 yards or whatever it was.
Wasn't it the lowest in like the history of
the
close
PGA
to
Championship?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Collective score, Noodles, it was actually outrageous. I saw it.
By like 40 strokes or something.
By way more than that. I saw this guy, Johnston, tweeted this out. Justin Ray from, I think, The Athletic. The lowest combined score to par by the field, PGA Championship history, 2024 Valhalla, minus 214. There were 214 shots under par.
Wow.
The next lowest was 40 over par back in 95. Like, this was like 250 shots collectively lower than any other
insane.
PGA Championship. That's how much they torched that place. It was crazy. All right, confirm or deny. Freddie Anderson should never start another big playoff game again in his career. It's a harsh one, admittedly.
It's harsh. It's for another team, maybe, but not for Carolina. Carolina.
Okay, let's just say Carolina. Carolina.
I'm going to deny it, but I think he signed for next year, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's got another year on his deal.
Yeah, I'm going to confirm it, though. I don't think you can have him playing a big game. I'm sorry. We've seen it. We saw it in Toronto.
Yes.
Those goals
saw it
he
in
gave
Anaheim,
up,
dude. Go back to Anaheim.
Yeah. The goals he gave up the other night.
Unacceptable, man.
You
can't win with it.
You can't have it, man.
When you got a team that's
backbreaking.
playing that good and you got a rock star in Shesterkin as your opponent, can't happen. Can't go in. I understand the deflection one was kind of a weird one where it's like maybe you can't track that. But the one from behind the net off the skate, that's a backbreaker,
well,
man.
you could feel it coming, though. You could feel it coming. You saw like
okay, Noodles. Well, I want a goalie in there where I don't feel it coming. Off the back of the net, off the skate, and it was just like,
I understand that. I'm not denying it. I'm just saying that you could actually see that one coming. Like you're like, oh my God, here. Then they're not going to be able to stop it because Carolina, I thought. I mean, they deserved a better fate. They really did. I thought there's been some weird, I don't know how you guys feel about some like weird comments coming up. Was Neshkash's dad complaining about something?
Did you see Waddell and Waddell's like, say hi to his dad for me?
Yeah, like it was such a weird transaction. Like the kids complaining about
HS's dad saying?
He's complaining that he wasn't on the first power play, I guess.
Like complaining.
Dude, this is not the GTHL.
I know.
Jesus.
I got the clip. I'll send it to you, Doogie. We'll play it because even Brindamore got his extension, the whole staff, and they're cleaning out their lockers, and Waddell's up there with Brindamore, and someone asked him about it, and he's like, "Yeah, we'll figure it out and say hi to your dad." And then Brindamore's like, "Listen, there's 5 parents happy with you because those guys are the 5 guys on the first power play. The other ones hate you."
No one in that league's parents should even be brought up. It's a joke.
It is embarrassing.
It's embarrassing. It's the best league in the world, and people's parents are involved like this. What the hell are we doing here? It's a greater Toronto Hockey League. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
I thought it was such a weird thing because watching that, like the scribe asked the question, and I thought Waddell kind of handled it kind of funny because he's just like, yeah, he might want to trade or whatever. We'll see. When you trade a player of his caliber, you never really get back what you're looking for. So we'll look at it. But he's like, say hi to his dad. Like it just basically like brushing off that the dad was complaining about his ice time. Like, who the hell is he complaining about? To a scribe back home or something?
Either that, he might be in the media. Like, remember, was it Lekkonen's dad over in Finland was talking smack about Rantanen?
Yeah, and Rantanen took a shot at his dad.
Took a big shot at his dad because his dad was over on Finnish TV as a sports media analyst, I believe, saying, hey, basically Rantanen's out of shape.
Yeah.
And didn't have a good offseason, blah, blah, blah. And Rantanen's like, are you kidding me? Go tell your dad to shut up.
Yeah, he scored a hat trick and said, I was in shape to do that. Or he took a shot like that.
He took a big run at him. Big run. Which is so awkward.
Yeah.
All right, confirm or deny. A true number 1 goalie should be Brad Treliving's top priority this summer. Acquiring one or finding one or establishing one.
100% confirm. You guys heard me all show. It's like you can't even think about going to battle with some of these teams, and you look at the 3 goaltenders out of the 4, and Skinner could rebound and be elite. But I don't know. You got to get one. It's imperative. Joseph Wall, As much as Samsonov's play was inconsistent, the health of him is inconsistent.
Yeah.
You can't just say he's our guy going into next season. That would be a massive mistake because you can't depend on the health. And if you think the guy that's going to war with them is just some guy off the street like they've done in the past, another big mistake.
Yeah, I would agree with this, but I think there's other places to address, and I would say a number one set of defense. And I'm talking like 1 to 6. Like, I think, Hayes, you laid it out there. You think there's probably 3 slots they got to fill. Those are important slots. Maybe the 2, 4, and the 5 hole type of thing. Mm-hmm. Like, if you address the defensive core, I don't disagree that they do need a number one goaltender, but I would argue their defensive core needs a retooling to the point where that is, hey, that's a mean defensive core, and there's definition there. Not just, hey, we got some NHL players and let's slap them together and see if they can play. Mm-hmm. Like, I think the defensive core is probably number one, but a close 1A would be the goaltender.
Yeah, I will confirm that it's the top priority. You have to solidify the position, but I would also warn against rushing into something and making a mistake. You can't just commit to a guy. I'll use Korpisalo as an example in Ottawa. Maybe he turns it around.
Right.
Maybe he does. But they said, screw it. We need a guy. Here's 5 years. And now they're a year in, and I'm sure they're like, what are we going to do now? What if he doesn't turn it around? They're in big trouble. And that would be my, I guess, warning to the Maple Leafs and any other team in a position like this. Yes, you want to find it. It's the priority, but you can't rush into something. You can't be desperate. You can't sign someone long-term because that's the only chair left. You get to July 1st, it's 3 p.m., other goalies are going, and you're like, screw it, we need someone, here's 3 years, we'll overpay.
Well,
you can't do that.
No, I would say that in looking at the goalie market, it's probably somebody that is an acquisition.
Trade,
like an Allmark. Yeah, it's an Allmark. It's the Markstrom, somebody like that. If it's Saros, like there's goalies that are potentially available. If you're in on them, you know what they are already. You're not hoping.
And that's ideal. That's ideal.
That's kind of what you're in on. That's probably where you're going, Oh.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But and listen, the same logic has to apply to the defenseman you're going to sign, to everyone.
Right.
You gotta. It's all about allocating money. It's one big math equation.
Right.
Like a lot of it is you got to make sure you spend your money appropriately.
Yes, and it has to be completely different than what it's looked like.
Yes.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah, for sure. Confirm and deny, brought to you by Summit Ford and South Lake Ford Lincoln, where there is no such thing as a no-trade clause. Any make, any model, anytime. Visit summitford.com or southlakeford.com. Mike Johnston coming up. We'll recap our chat with Craig Berube. Best bet still to come. Something to chew on. Brought to you by Boston Pizza still to come as well. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.
I'm getting my buddy Crapper on at 6:45, and you guys are going to formally apologize.
We are.
Yes. I appreciate that. I appreciate you doing that. No, I'm serious. I got to talk to the Crapper because I want to know how he got his cap down to a +4. Like, what's with this cat?
Dude, he's a stick.
Obviously, he is.
He's a lefty. He putts one of the best. I've seen all kinds of levels of golf. Mm-hmm. One of the best putters in Canada.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that was
what I was going to get to before you two started making asses out of yourselves. He carries his bag and he just floats along that golf course, and it's like nothing to him. Doesn't sweat.
Doesn't great sweat.
Shape. Yeah, you're in great shape, and you get your muscle memory, right? Like, we're walking up 18 today. I needed a Sherpa to get me up that hill, dude. I felt like I was halfway up Everest, and I was in a bad place.
I just got to know why you didn't keep an eye on my ball in 11. It kind of bothered me a little bit. You were not interested in looking. And you were at the green and you saw it land, and I'm like, why isn't this guy telling me where the ball is?
Well, for starters,
was a garbage move.
I didn't see it land. I saw it take flight. But the thing is, if I'm in a cart, dude, I am helping. I'm helper guy. I'm all over the place. Let me drive up and find it. If you're walking, man, every man for himself out there. Like,
I do agree with that. It's like, if my back is seizing up, I am not walking down one little nook or cranny for your golf ball,
That's the thing, man. I'm dying. I'm like, I'm over here. I'm not walking to find, like, I gave you the gratuitous look. The kind of fake,
you went
hey,
like
it might
this.
have been
You were
in here.
reading your putt, and you were like, it might be in that fescue there, and then you just stopped, and then you putted your ball.
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy's a joke.
I know. You got job there because that's the toughest hole in the course. It's a brilliant hole. I thought you hit a good second shot. But again, if I'm in a cart, I'm on that. Like, on
Dude,
it.
you didn't see the worst thing. One of the workers on the course, you guys were walking ahead, and as I was walking away distraught, he comes up to me and goes, do you want me to show you where this ball is so you can finish out the hole?
No
and I go, yeah, let's go. And then he handed me the ball, and it said Burlington Country Club on it. And I go, this isn't the right ball.
Yeah, come on, dude. I lost one out there. You know what I'm worried about? Because I have haze on, like, the TaylorMade TP5 balls. I sizzled one, like, deep into the trees. And
somebody's coming out with that.
Someone's going to find it next week. Like, someone's walking through there. They're like, here's a ball, and it's Bryan Hayes.
Hayes.
Yeah, that's coming. So
Love it for sure.
Oh, yeah. Around the Green guy will find it. I'll see him next week around the Green.
Around the Green guy. We can't wait to see him again.
Yes,
anyway, I'm getting crapper on at 6:45.
Okay. All right. That's coming up. Mike Johnston coming up. We've got something to chew on. Our best bet still to come as well. Final hour forthcoming. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.